We stand tall, words of blades that never fall, debated warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. In the ring we stand tall, words of blades that never fall, debate like warriors brave. Every thought we give and save. Through the noise we cut clean, spirited, mind sharp and keen. With a spark that lights the night, join us in this epic fight. Welcome to the Spartan Arena, where minds clash and thoughts clean. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena, there's no chance to escape the fight by law. Dive in deep and search for more. From heartfelt talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome talks to fierce debates, we explore what fate creates. Side by side we seek the light. In the dark our minds ignite. Welcome to the Spartan Arena, where minds clash and thoughts clean. In the heat of every word, truth and insight will be heard. Buckle up and take your stance. In this arena, there's no chance to escape the fight by law. Dive in deep and search for more. Welcome to the spot. It's time to ignite. Oh yeah. Operation Hangout. The feeling's just right. Chilling with the crew. We're ready to groove. Opinions flying high. Come on, let's move. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Pull up a chair, let's get in the zone. Voices blending smooth like a funky trombone. Oh yeah. Topics from the heart, making us think. With a twist and a shout, raise up your drink. Cheers! Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Bring it down, shake it up, feel the beat. With every word we share, the circle's complete. Living loud, think it proud, that's what we do. Oh yeah. Join the club, come on through, we're waiting for you. Alright. Hang out all night long, all night. Laughing and debating, playing our song. Oh yeah. Share your thoughts, don't be shy. Don't be shy. Operation Hangout, let's reach for the sky. Let's fly. Hang out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's another night, another Thursday, at the Thought HQ Network. Um, as co-host of this platform, we collaborate with TV and Tech Talk. I'm here to introduce our big brother of our platform. He's our big brother, our elder, Mr. Paul Bennett. How you doing?
I am doing well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Awesome.
you loud and clear.
Awesome.
So today is your debut of on the show tonight. So I wonder what we're getting ourselves into tonight.
Now it says run the show. First you said we I thought we'd be co-hosting this together. Now you want me to run it.
We co-host. We
I thought we all
co-host.
right. So now,
We
just dumping on
co-host
me
tonight, but
tonight, man. Man,
I'm not gonna dump it
yeah.
on you. But I'm here to help out whatever
I
I
hear you.
can or add to the
I hear
conversation.
you. I hear you. And shout out to Pete. Shout out to Pete and his mom. Hopefully they're doing well. Pete, hopefully he should be on a little bit later on the show tonight. But I never, since I did, we didn't discuss the topic ahead of time, so I never get an idea like where he wants to go with the conversation. He throws out a list of questions. I don't know if he's asking the first question, the middle question, or the last question. I have no idea. So he kind of has a way of framing these conversations in a way. So every time I come up, I'm always asking, well, what context are you asking the question? But certainly tonight's show is dealing with the idea if it's time to step up to embrace responsibility and growth. So again, I don't know who that's for, or certainly if somebody can sort of take this on and take heed to it tonight. But Pete, he wanted to kind of go over this topic tonight, and so we can kind of talk about it. Certainly, and this is I think is something that shout out to Don GQ, shout out to you for being here tonight. But hopefully this will be certainly an enlightening conversation that I think people at any age certainly can embrace, and so hopefully we can have a respectful dialogue on the topic. But yeah, man, it's still early 2025. Shout out to Mariana Constantine for being in the studio tonight. Appreciate you being here. But but yeah, this idea of again, growth and stepping up. So I mean, first question of the night, he's asking, what does stepping up really look like in today's world? I'm trying to think, was it any different in any other era of the world? I don't think really things have really changed that much in terms of what it takes to zero escape the world that you're in. It's taken by force, and I think that certainly stepping up really is about not conforming to your comfort zones, but really stepping out of that so you can certainly do something positive with that. So I'll ask you, David. Do you think that from back in this? I know you grew up in the '90s. I grew up in the '70s and '80s. Do you think that how to step up in today's world is any different than what it was back a generation ago? Shout out to my man Eric in the building tonight as well. Um, or do you think there is a new program, so to speak, that for even for us who are still living in this world that we have to run, that's different than the generation that came before us, or like I said, when we kind of getting our come up and coming to our own in the '90s and the 2000s. Is it a different ball game today? But in today's climate, is it any different than what it might have been back then?
Hmm. Now you put me on the spot with this question.
It's his question. I'm just saying. I'm just reading.
Cause
I'm
I
just
know,
reading the
I
script
know
here, man. So don't shoot the messenger.
I know it's his question, but the way you put it and you give the content to it, it come like your question. But I get it. It's a very solid question to ask because a few hours ago I was listening to a podcast from Valley. They had a couple of big names. He had no feed, the way we want to call it, on the panel. He had another dude who had his own podcast, and they were having a discussion. It seemed to be surrounded around accountability and responsibility, who to be held
Hmm.
responsible for their partner action type
Hmm.
of thing. And as I listened to their argument, now let's not forget, I'm a Canadian born Nigerian, so I have two sides of the world that I
Hmm.
look at. I grew up in the 80s. I got a little older into the 90s. But around the 80s and 90s, I spent like 7 years in Nigeria. So I'm able to get two sides of different
Okay.
perspectives
Well, can I
from.
ask you real quick? How long did you live in
Go
Canada?
ahead. I was born in Canada. I was born in Montreal, Canada. My parents first migrated to Canada first before they came to the
Okay, so you
U.S.
don't have an extensive childhood in Canada growing up
I
in.
I wish I
Mm,
did, but all I can remember is seeing pictures of myself when I was a
mm,
toddler, and I was told when I turned about 1 year they decided to come to the U.S. instead of staying in Canada. Which I found it strange because I look at today's time, a lot of Nigerians decide to go to Canada first before coming over here due
yeah, yeah,
to
I
the
know. Yeah,
immigration law being more stiff,
hmm
so to speak. So
but that's always been a
I
thing.
wish I
Like
had more
I
insight
work with a
what
lot.
life
Yeah,
is in Canada.
yeah, but I think Canada's
Yeah,
always
correct.
been
I
a
wish I had
viable option for people. Yeah.
true. Only thing I'm mad about, I don't have enough living expense in Canada. I only got to spend on living here in the US
hmm
and living in Nigeria. So when I look at different aspects of things, I start to look at it like, you know what, there are two different principles, two different value systems. And the title say time to step up. Now, for everybody looking to this conversation, you gotta ask yourself this, what kind of ethnic group are you a part of while living in the US? The African community have their own value system, which different from the Latino community, which different from the African community, which different from the Caribbean, Afro Latino, whatever ethnic group you may be. Now, based on your parents in the household you may have, their view or their value system was stepping up could be different from family to family, case to
hmm
case, so to speak. Now, growing up in downtown Brooklyn during the 80s was different than it is right now. I see a value system that was almost still intact will look like we're fading away, whereby you being the first child, you're responsible to look out for your siblings. You're stepping up at a very young age. You're giving it a dose of responsibility from your parents, so to speak.
hmm
You hear about how your peers, whereby you be in elementary school, your mom and dad will go to work and don't leave you behind. They expect you to be responsible, not to step outside the house and do anything so you're not supposed to do, so to speak, because during the time the financial situation back in the 80s, it's not like it is right now, but when you have a community that look out for one another at that time, it's kind of different. I didn't forget what JT showcased a few months back last year when he showed how the 80s, no, show how New York City was looking like in the 70s and the 60s, whereby there was somewhat of a community, but you're known to hear how people leave their kids or their sibling home, and yeah, you're next door, they were looking out for them, so to speak. They're stepping out to cover because you don't have to mean to afford a babysitter, but it's almost like a village setup. People are stepping up to look out for one another. Whereby you have the OGs out in the tree that keep the kids to go back home. They're not expect you to see outside hanging out with them because you are different from them kind of thing. Then when I compare that to Nigeria upbringing, it look almost similar, but different in a unique way because there was a cultural aspect to it that have been passed down from generation to generation whereby at a certain age you're not going to be outside period at a certain time. End of story unless you're running errands for your mom or your partner, they have to get something outside and come back. That is what it is. Because the society over there is not similar over here. No 12, 13, 14-year-old child is hanging outside late. That is if you're in a major type of either being a city or, a more rural area. You don't want hanging around you up there, either finishing your homework, ready to go to school, get your uniform, watch, iron, everything, so to speak. That is something you have to look at. Over here, when I'm growing up here, it almost feels the same way. 5, 6 o'clock back in the 80s, they have that thing on the TV. It's 5 o'clock. You know where your child is? Just try to give people that little warning, like don't let the kid be outside late at night. So that you're doing your homeworks, you're getting ready for school, you're prepping for yourself. or you're helping your sibling whatsoever. It's almost similar, but it depends on the community you live in. But if you look at today's time, it's very based on ethnic group in a much bigger way. If you're coming from a cultural background that has structure and order, then you know how to conduct yourself. If you're coming from a household whereby there's so much brokenness, it's more of a challenge unless you want to change that particular negative culture that your family grew up in. You and I both know we came from different challenging childhood. It wasn't that simple. But when you look at the term embracing our responsibility, embracing our accountability, I will ask the question, what value system was you trying to build? I had
Mm.
to learn that over the years because it seemed to me everything falls into a value system. What do you value more in your family, in your culture, in your environment, in your culture? What does that keep you guys in check or in line? That if you have any, are you driven by emotion? Are you driven by principle? Or are you driven by faith?
Mm.
That was my crossroad in my early 20s because I had to ask myself that question over a million times.
Right.
So it's when I say you put me in a spot, that is my thought process because at my age, I can't ask myself if I'm doing the right thing, if I'm walking the right path.
Hmm.
Do I need to modify my principle which I live by? Do I need to update it or to add on to it? Now, when I'm done building the pillar, it's something I can pass down to the next generation to uplift,
Mm.
not to put the fault on my head. As a father, I have to think that way because I can't just be nonchalant like I don't care. It's whatever. Even though I'm a Christian, according to the biblical principle, I had to hold myself accountable. So there's no if, no but. If I was a Muslim, you know how I think. I
Hmm.
don't know. But that is a unique question that I think everybody can ask themselves each and every day.
Hmm.
The way that to keep themselves on path of what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Tell me if I'm wrong.
Um, I the short answer is no for me. I don't think that how it looks. I think the rules haven't changed. It's funny. I was talking to my daughter earlier today. We were talking a little bit about the Bible and things of that nature, and really what areas she should really focus on, because obviously it's a fairly expansive, and you can get really lost in that, and people get lost in it overall. And I basically told her, like, when it came to, like, how to conduct yourself, how you level up, um, if you just read Proverbs, like every self improvement book, every positive mental attitude book, every personal development book, most of those principles you find in Proverbs. And that was written thousands of years ago, and I think most of those principles still apply today, regardless of the circumstances or the culture that you find yourself in. Because I know you were talking about, growing up in U.S. versus growing up in Nigeria. Um, when I look at just statistically, they're not very different. In terms of crime rates or use of drugs or just different things that are going on in the country. It's considered a developing country on on certain measures, and people kind of make up that culture. So I mean, really, is it? I don't think it's necessarily about the countries that we grew up around. It's just the circumstances that we just so happen to be born into. But the path to get out of there, I think, is going to be the same. I think simply to think differently from your surroundings, and start to move and operate in ways that is disciplined, that is focused, that keeps you out of trouble, and just really to apply yourself to whatever it is um, that you're looking to do. I think society, certainly in the last 50 years, has changed drastically in most parts of the world. But I don't think the principles of stepping up don't change. I mean, my shout out to my man Eric. I was there. I saw when he had to sacrifice a lot of his own personal life in order to care for his parents. You know, I'm sure he had goals, he had dreams, he had aspirations that what he wanted to do, but he stepped up in that time in order to take care of his parents because again he was the guy who was basically to do it, and we're similar in that way. In that I'm the youngest, and he's the youngest member of his family. I'm the youngest member of mine, and I had to step up and take care of both of my parents in their old age as well.
I would say the
Despite
same thing. I would
the
add the
yeah,
same thing with Mono Freely with the same thing similar to you because he
yeah,
said the same thing when he shared how he had to take care of his mom.
yeah,
So I can understand where you're coming from.
yeah. So I mean, a lot of it is, you know, stepping up is again doing what's required, not necessarily what is desired. You know what I mean? I mean that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people because again, you know, again you might have had a different purpose and destiny for your life, but circumstances are such where you know these things come up. Are you going to step up in this time and be responsible for those who are in your care? So I mean, shout out to Pete tonight. He had to take care of some family business tonight. I was on the show last night with a brother who he had to work late to handle some business. He couldn't be on the show. Like I said, we've all had to kind of come in and do things, you know, do the responsible things, not necessarily the things we desired with people who we didn't necessarily find desirable. I've
Now,
talked I've talked about both my parents pretty transparently in these spaces, and I didn't necessarily have the greatest of childhoods or affections for them or what have you. But when it was time to, you know, step up and do what needed to be done, yeah, I mean, I don't think there was a question. There was a question about it, and you know, and the best thing that happened with that is my growth through that. I think one of the things that Pete is asking tonight is about the growth that happens, and growth is difficult sometimes. You know what I mean? Growth is painful. It's just like you being in the gym. You know, if you're gonna really work out hard, it's gonna hurt in the exercise. It's gonna hurt after the exercise. You're gonna have those DOMs that set in for a couple days after the exercise. But it's all meant towards a purpose of growth, so you can be stronger for the next thing that comes down. But I don't think there's no I don't think there's no substitute for that. I even go back to the scriptures again. You know, God told Adam and Eve, you're gonna work by the sweat of your brow. And I don't think there's, you know, as much as human beings we pursue comfort over work, but I think there's just no substitute for work or for, you know, that pushing, that pressing, that stepping up, you know, doing the uncomfortable things to actually forge the world into what you need it to be for your purposes. I think that's something that again we just can't escape. But I think the human condition is one that seeks comforts. But the reality is, if there's to be any progress, there must be struggle and there must be that pressing in order to get to where you need to go. So again, regardless of where you grew up, what country, US, Canada, Nigeria, wherever you grew up in, you're gonna have to um, push in some ways, regardless of how society tries to simplify things for you, if you want to
now
succeed and go on. Good.
I don't want you to walk away in that area in that comment concerning you got to take care of your family because they got me thinking about a lot of things. You, Mr. Eric, in the comment in the chat room at where no count freely. All three of you have to take care of your parents, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
You had an option to either do that or put them in a nursing home. Am I correct, right?
No, well, actually, one of my parents was in a nursing home, and one
Okay,
wasn't.
one. Okay,
Yeah,
okay, that's fine.
and this is that's. I'm glad you asked that question because for a lot of people, how stepping up looks like. I think stepping up is more so of a mindset and an attitude,
Okay,
more so than a method. And a lot of times we tie those things together. The methods that you may use, just like the methods that might have worked in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and so on and so forth. The methods by which we do things is different, but the mindset isn't. So again, part of it is looking at what was going to be the best situation for my mom. Now, again, back in the day,
Okay.
again, the idea of putting your mother into a nursing home was like an anathema. It was just like, unheard of. But in my situation,
And I get that.
where I was and what she needed, again, part of stepping up isn't just walking out into the abyss. You have to analyze in all the factors where you are, what they need, and what is the best option. Not necessarily, again, not the most comfortable option. What is the right option? So in my mom's
And
case,
there's a reason I'm
yeah.
asking that question. There's a reason I'm asking that question because what you give me is very clear. But I want to ask that do the society environment have a play in it? Like in American society, it's, people are given the option either take care of their parents or put them in a nursing home.
Mhm.
Am I correct?
Um, yeah.
But in the society I saw in my country, to present day, there's no such thing as a nursing home. That is automatically speaking that one of your siblings is going to help responsible of taking care of the parent regardless, or if you all take turns. Or in some cases, their family have a big house, but someone decide
Mhm.
to move out and either one of you end up staying behind in that big home,
Mhm.
taking care of mom and pop.
Mhm.
This is a normal thing
Right.
in Nigeria, unless you're in the city. Like
Right.
if you're in a village, it's kind of like it's more of an advantage because in the village everybody know
Mhm.
each other, so everybody look
Right.
out for one another, so to speak. Am I correct?
Yeah. But to me, it's the same thing.
Okay.
It's looking at what you have, what is required, and what options are available. Like I said, it's the same thing. Like I don't know, what the number of nursing homes is, for example, is in Nigeria. What the current setup is over there. Like you said, the big house that would foster for multiple families or people to live there. And then you also have to look at the aptitude of the persons who were involved. So the fact that the reason why it fell on me was all of those factors. It was access, it was proximity, it was aptitude, and it was also willingness. Now, I didn't have a lot of time to um to play around with people, trying to get people to do certain things. Like I've said in the past, some people can't and some people can't. And some people don't need to be. And people got to be real honest about what they can and cannot do. Like I said, my thing is if you got 10 people, I'd rather work with 2 who are willing to do than try to drag 8.
That's what you're saying.
So I'm not so again, all of that had to be factored in so I could make again an informed decision again on what the best course of action was. I was not in a position to have my mom move in with me for a lot of reasons that would not have worked. She was already in an arrangement where she was getting in home visitation. Shout out to Wally World. Shout out to being in tonight. But she needed 24-hour supervision. That was something that I could not provide in addition to my career, my wife and kids, and making sure that they were taken care of. So again, and nobody else was in a position. I got 2 sisters who live on the West Coast. So so again, when you start to factor all that in, I was almost in a way chosen. I like to say chosen by God because again, it's sometimes the obvious choice is the best choice. And so again, all those things considered, it wasn't something that I wanted, but again, I had to sometimes you have to look at, again, your roster. I'm the youngest of 5. I had to look at the roster. 2 were unavailable. 1 was, I would say, for lack of a better word, incompetent. 1 simply just didn't have the capacity. Because she'd been there before. She took care of her husband's mom until she died, and then she had to bury her own husband because he got sick shortly thereafter.
Mm.
So she didn't have she didn't have whatever she had to give to somebody, she gave it to her husband's mom. There was no capacity anymore. The fuel tank was empty.
That makes
So
sense.
again, so who else was going to be there to step up in that time? So for me, it really wasn't a choice. It didn't mean that I had to like it, but I had to do what was, because I couldn't live in myself if I didn't. I don't know if I'd be here today if I didn't.
That makes sense.
So you got to take all that to account also. So again, sometimes stepping up is just making the decision to do, and the more mental gymnastics that you try to do over should you or shouldn't you, with anything. I don't want to just limit this to parental care or whatever. I don't want to make this a singular focused topic, but I'm saying anything that you do, stepping up when you don't feel like it, stepping up when there are other more desirable options. Again, necessity is really how we move, and that's actually a second question that Pete asked tonight. Why do so many people wait for a crisis before they take responsibility? Because again, that's how human beings are wired. We desire comfort, but the world is forged. Again, that's a not to get overly spiritual. God said again, you will work the land by the sweat of your brow. He said we were supposed to take dominion over the world, and that means to conquer the world. That means you have to know it, you have to study it, you have to get in the earth, you have to break stuff down. Chemistry, biology, astronomy, physics. You cannot have dominion over something that you do not master. You don't know. You have to know the subject, and then you have to do the work to get the mineral resources out of the ground. So again, life is about forging. And again, that's the one thing that I always.
That's what I asked you. Is society have a play to it? You know what I said? I said that's what I asked. Society have a play to it because
Again,
in this,
I think society gives you. Yeah, I mean, I think society is kind of funny though, because again, society is forged, but what is forged tries to bring you comfort. So they kind of work against each other to an extent.
okay, so let me paint a picture for you so you see what I'm coming from. Let me
Sure.
take your life situation, right, and clone it in 5
Mhm.
different groups. You place one in the U.S. You place one in Japan. You place one in Africa. You place one in Middle East. And you place one in Europe. In those 5 clone situations, you think society would have it go the same direction, or be completely different based on the 5 different environments?
I think there would be. I think in a lot of ways they would be different. The short answer, I think they would wind up in the same place because human beings are involved.
Okay.
That's my short answer, because history tells us that. Every great society, every great civilization, Alexandria, Rome, the great African dynasties, all those, they all came to an end, and they all kind of came for the same reasons. hubris, comfort, decadence, bohemian qualities. So again, those societies were built, they were forged, they had their kind of golden era. You get into a point of comfort, and there's a drop off in the society. So look at the countries that you're talking about. Japan. Japan is in trouble. Japan is dying out. One of the most technically advanced cities in the world. In fact, I got a coworker. He's over there now. He's been in it for 2 weeks. Him and his fiance. Fake dream vacation. That's one of my dreams. Is to go to Japan. But despite all of its structure, all of its technology, it's an aging society. They're dying out.
Due to the young generation not trying to have kids.
But all of that comes out of, again, the more complex the society becomes, the more you get away from those basic human functions. Man, woman, children. The more complicated the society gets, and the more comforts, therefore, that people seek, you get the same result.
I get you saying.
So again, it's happened over. This is the repeated cycle of human history. Great societies are forged, they're built, they have their run, they get fat and lazy, they fall off. Somebody else comes in who's a younger, hungrier tiger and eats them up.
That's what you're saying.
In America, we're the kind of young. We're still, relatively speaking, we're still one of the youngest. Certainly, if you want to call America a world power, we're still relatively young on the scene. We're not even 300 years old yet. But when you think about these dynasties that were there for thousands of years, so I think it's just inevitable to cycle. So stepping up only to a point where we feel comfortable. And then once the society gets comfortable, once this pursuit of comfort becomes the primary goal of society, then things start to kind of digress.
So if you in a society doesn't have that much comfort, would it force you to step up more compared to another society that has too much comfort available?
You got to step up, but maybe in another way. I think that you have to find, even in your comforts, you have to find a way to make yourself uncomfortable in ways that are productive. I'm not a masochist. I don't want to be just torture myself just to be torturing myself. But it's got to be going somewhere. Again, that's why I'm always referring to the gym. The gym is not a place for comfort. For me, anyway. Now, I see people at the gym, and they look very comfortable in the gym.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm asking this question because this has always been weighing my heart about accountability and responsibility. And sometimes I always think where you live, wherever environment you live, the society can either be a positive or a negative addition to your situation. Because remember, I mentioned in my country, there's no such thing as a nursing home or elder living. It's right off the back. You are going to be responsible. One of you guys, but mostly it fall on the oldest, who is held responsible to take care of their mom and pop. The youngest may have to join in and have either all live in the same home. If there's a big house, and in scenario, it's similar to that of the Middle Eastern as well as the Indian. But there's a big home. You have multiple bedrooms, let's say you have 5 or 6 bedrooms. Mom and pop are getting old. It's financially stable not to think of moving out of the house if you have a big family home to live in. This way you stay closer to you take care of your mom and pop until their days on the earth is over. That's something where the Indians always talk about a lot more in their ethnic group, whereby.
Well, again, but most did.
Okay.
It was the same in America 100 years ago.
Okay.
Go to any one of these old neighborhoods. Maybe New York might not be the outlier. You might have to get out into Westchester County or something like that. You might have to get out into the country, out of the city.
Okay.
Because that doesn't work necessarily in the urban areas. But when you get out into like the suburbs, when you get them big houses or whatnot, you get out on the island, Long Island,
Mm.
and you see them big houses and whatnot. That's what's America 100 years ago, 150 years ago. Nobody thought about putting their mom in a nursing home either, because you had that big family, multi generational home.
Makes sense.
And so, but again, the drive in America is rugged individualism. That's an American credo that's been in existence for quite some time. The idea that you leave the community, you left the rural or the country or the suburban to move to the big city to forge your own life. You left the South to find jobs in the North,
Okay.
and then you might have brought your immediate family. That's what my dad did. He moved up here after getting out, found a job here, bought a big 2-family house, multi-family house on the GI Bill, sent from my mom and my 2 oldest sisters.
Makes sense.
Then they became a gateway for my aunts and aunties to move up here and establish and have jobs. Because again, you had GM plants here, Ford plant here, AT&T, Bell Labs here, all those companies. Every one of them moved up here, lived with my parents, big multi-family, multi-generational, not too different. But then everybody went out and did their own thing. And everybody wanted to have their own little house with the picket fence in the
Makes
front or
sense.
whatever. And you lost that connectedness.
You need the village mindset.
Now, some people are trying to reverse the trend. Some people are trying to say, look, if this economics, especially what's happening now, if this economics trend continues, and this is what I said earlier, stepping up also means stepping down,
Mm.
meaning you take the L, you recognize where you are, going back to what I said earlier, how you make assessments. You assess where you are. We can't live independently anymore. We better combine our resources, get a multi-unit. I literally had this conversation with my girls a few weeks ago. It's like, look, I mean, all of them are about to be in the next few years gainfully employed. I said, wouldn't it be better if we all took all the money that we make and whatever and get a big, almost like a compound or something like that? And then to all of them, it's like, no way.
And
It's like
I'm
they
glad
want their own
I'm glad
stuff.
you brought it up.
They want their own land. They want their own life. They want to leave the nest.
I'm glad you bring it up
So
because
again, that idea of culture and village or whatnot, it doesn't hurt enough for them to want to stay in the nest. They want to spread their wings and be free and see the world and find them, quote unquote, find themselves. They don't want to be rooted, at least not now.
and I'm
And
glad
so
you
again,
mentioned
so
this
yeah.
because when I'm listening to you and I'm taking notes in my head and I'm like, this man is dropping nugget. But it resonates to what I had a conversation with my babysitter a few weeks ago. She came and visit, and she mentioned something to me that caught me off guard. She said when she graduated from college, she had a crappy ass job working at Macy's. She stayed under my mom, wouldn't pay much bills or anything. So what she did
Mhm.
while she staying home with my mom, staying in the apartment they all had together, it allowed her to take care of any type of expense like the student loan. She knocked it out under 1 year. She was going to St. John.
Correct. Yep.
Now, when I hear
Yep.
that and I listen to all the past conversations that I hear from you and many other women to be at the Black Men of Filter Network or any other panel, and I hear people from another ethnic group mention, I think we need to retrain our kid or re-educate our kid about not just stepping up, but having a financial responsibility, not put yourself in a situation whereby when you're not aware or you don't have that foresight, you will end up coming back when, how do you say, when shit hit the fan, and you're coming back trying to
Mhm.
recoup yourself up when you could have just say, let me just stay here. This is the most financial, more logical thing to do. I'm stepping up to not to bring more debt into the family. Let me be another financial, looking for the exact word, like trust, and let me not be so stupid so I'm gonna waste my money paying rent when we all here and we can reduce the cost and have more money
Mhm.
built up over time, because that's what the Indian mindset. Everybody stay under that same home. They want
The Latino mindset. I mean, yeah.
and you're correct. But they are stepping up. They are being financially responsible. They're being more
Well,
responsible in a way.
well,
All right, let me get in here, guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
let me just say this real quick. I would say yes, but again, if that's your only option, to me, it's not the same thing. Stepping up means when you have options and you choose to go against the convention, then I think that's more kind of where that is.
Okay,
But for a lot of them, it's like one, that's all they know, especially when they come here.
okay.
And then if that's your only choices, but again, give anybody all those populations, all those scenarios that you started with, you drop any human beings in those similar situations. You put a Latino in Japan, a couple generations down the road, they're going to act like the Japanese. You see it here. Couple 2-3 generations removed, they start moving like Americans. So again, so the human condition, it really hasn't changed that much. And that's why, again, I keep going back to those values. But certainly shout out to Ghost. Welcome aboard. Hope everything is well. And, floor is yours.
So I'm gonna blow myself up one for once. I don't usually do this. Today we are talking about not we were about stepping up. It's kind of ironic we have this title today. I was late. I'm never late. So I get a phone call today. My mom's getting rushed to the ER. Where is your mind at that point? Do I leave work? Do I let them handle the business? Do I do what? You have to keep your mind calm at those moments. You have to focus. So I'm juggling two things. I'm trying to run my kitchen. Plus, I'm trying to do my duties as a son and as a man at home. And I did. Found out she got diagnosed with COVID and an ear infection. All right. So first thing in my head was I failed. I didn't take care of her enough. I didn't watch the steps. We kind of relaxed with the COVID bullshit. COVID's still there. COVID is just another stream of flu. We didn't know what it was at first. Now we know it's just another version of the fucking flu. But with somebody who has cancer and has lung problems, that can be a serious thing. Stepping up could be a lot of things. I'm stepping up every single day. I have put my life on pause a lot of times. Excuse me. Because I have taken my mom. I have to do things. When people are out partying and hanging out with their friends, drinking, or going to the movies, shooting pool, or whatever, I'm taking care of my mom. I'm doing housework. I'm doing laundry. I'm cooking. I don't have the opportunity to be a kid when I was a kid. At a very young age, I didn't have the opportunity to do stupid shit like jump a fence and jump in somebody's pool or random neighbors, or play soccer and break a window, or take my mom's car or my dad's car without asking them, kind of thing, or get caught smoking a joint. I never got those opportunities. David, I see how you're looking back there, so shut up. I never had those opportunities. I had it to be raised very fast because she got sick very young. Part of it is because she's overweight. The other half of it is because of the goddamn smoker she always been. I had to step up. I had to be the man. My father was the provider. I was the caregiver always. And I still am. I got to do what I got to do. I'm not trying to make excuses here. This topic comes back. We're going around a big circle because I thought let's open the archives for once. Let me hear in the comments who remembers my Motivation Mondays when we did them. This is a topic. One of my first topics is stepping up. I'm bringing some old topics back. And this time, except just me talking to the camera and telling you how to be motivated, how to push yourself, how to do things, I'm not going to do that. I'll let us have the conversation. I'll let us argue. Let's butt heads. Let's have the conversation saying, hey, I have to do this because I had no choice. And somebody tell you, well, shove her in a nursing home. Newsflash, motherfucker. I work at a nursing home. I know how bad they are. I don't care how expensive they are or how low end they are. They're all the same dirt piece of shits. And I'll leave it to that.
I'm glad you shared that word experience because it is something that have always been on my mind. And I'm glad I have this conversation with my big brother here, Mr. Paul Bennett, because when I asked this, I can't say I dodged the bullet. When my mom passed away around November of 2023, right, what is strange, it was a falling out. My mom lived about 20 minutes away from me here in Brooklyn. I never have a key to her apartment, I'll tell you that right now. The only people who had a key to her apartment were my younger siblings. And that's been going on for multiple years, but yet those same younger siblings, whenever she needs something from them, they barely showed up for anything for her. But I'll be the last one she will reach out to. Be like, oh, can you help me? Then you know what I have to do when I come out from work. I drop back my mom to what you want me to do before I come home to my own family. And I'm the big brother. I don't get a chance to say no. Reason why I had at the back of my head, it will come down to it. When my mom requests or asks for me, to just do it. Oh, can you put up the shelf for me? I need to get it set up. Okay, no problem. I get my tools. Get it done. Oh, I got an issue with the computer. Can we fix it? Well, I come in and get that thing done. Oh, one time she asked me to help her take out a big dead rat. My children
Eh?
didn't want to do it. But yeah, it's more I pick at a splinter. So instead of them helping her out to do it, straight from work, I got to go and buy some rubber glove, nearby store, come over there, get a bag, take care of that thing, boom, 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 boom. And that was me systematically speaking. We were not living together. We had our falling out. Bridge had been burned several times, but me trying to be the bigger person whenever she need help, I step up and I step in and dealing with the responsibility without no complaint, even though I don't want to do it. But me being the oldest son, there was a culture dynamic that been put upon me since youth. The oldest child had to step up, either they like it or they don't. Me, we had to be like, okay,
In my
it's
case,
our
David, I
responsibility.
didn't have a choice. I had to step up. I had no choice. And you know what's more fucked up? And I had to step up even more.
Go
And I
ahead.
think I shared this a little bit on the gray area, if I'm mistaken. When my mother first got diagnosed with cancer, my cousin, my cousin's name is Lazaros Vastados,
Mhm.
lives in West Orange, New Jersey. He's a loan officer slash real estate. Do not fucking trust a crack addict. And I mean, he's a crack addict. Because when my mother got diagnosed for cancer, says tough shit. They cut me out of their lives. Like I was a piece of shit. Is that fucking family? But you know what I did, David, instead? That's fine, my man. I stepped up and I handled my fucking business.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I was told right after my mom passed away, a brother Coleman told me this. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer more than a year ago. But when she went out to Texas to meet my other siblings over there, they found out from there. And I'm thinking, if you were down not to was there for kind of more than a year, how come she never informed me about it? And she kept that information from me. Because I know me. If you tell me such an information like that, right out the back, I had to pop up at their house almost every other day just to be a responsible older sibling. That was my programming. If you see what I say programming. I didn't say that was my responsibility.
We don't have a
I was
choice in this
taught.
matter. All three of us have to take care of our parents.
Mhm.
Paul did it for I don't know how many years you did, my man. You did it for I don't know how many years. I am going on literally 20 years of my life doing this.
Mhm.
And I'm not gonna lie, yeah, it gets tiring at times. Like, yeah, I want to live my life once in a while.
And I
And
hear
I
you.
can't.
And I hear you about it. This is something I've been. And here's the funny thing. I have my own family. My mom put me out at one point when all my siblings living under them. She never put out my younger sibling. My younger sibling never been put out on the street, only with me. But whenever something needs to be done, instead of going through them, she goes through me, and I will say, okay, no problem. I have every right to tell my mom, no. Why can't you ask them to do it? Why can't they help you to do it? But for some apparent reason, it just felt like I'm the oldest child, so I should step up. That just falls on me. If I don't step up, I look bad. And there was a cultural aspect of things that living in Nigeria, it kind of like make me see things completely different. Like I have no excuse. Once you're the oldest child, there is no excuse. If your mom or dad is sick, it falls on you automatically. You have to step up. You have to be the responsible person. There's no if, there's no but. Your life will be put on back burner. My life was put on back burner most of the time throughout my childhood growing up in that household. I put my life on back burner to make sure everybody else get what they need to get. And when I got fed up and felt like I've been treated like a doormat, I decided, like, no, enough is enough. But still, when I'm not too far away enough, because I was still in the proximity, I'm just 20 minutes away from my mom. If I want to walk there by foot, I get there under 15 minutes or less. I want to take a bus or the subway, I get there quicker than anybody else. But that'll be my siblings. They got all kinds of excuses. But you ask me, I could be coming from work. I say, okay, I'll be on my way. Boom. I get it done. Whatever scoop I get from anybody else doesn't even matter. I don't really care. But it's a like remember I say programming because there's some culture they raise their children to be responsible, no if no but whatsoever. It's like a taboo, it's like a curse if you don't step up, if you don't represent the family. Remember I talked about in
I
some
really
past conversation
feel,
about
and
the family last name. It's
hang
a
on, David, hang on,
legacy
hang on,
thing.
hang on. I really feel, and Paul, I want you to jump in after I say this. I feel the whole mentality of taking your parents or respecting the elders, any of that stuff, is a European or overseas mentality. It's really rare to find American people, American race, who actually will do that.
Um, again, I think it depends on the society. I think that it is, like I said, go back 100 years. It may have mirrored more. And interesting enough, it would have been 100 years ago or older because America, with the exception of the slaves, which was us, is they say is a nation of it. And then it shout out to the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples and tribes here. This is a nation, was a nation of immigrants. So again, the Italians, the British, the French, the Greeks, whoever came that in that big expansion, you brought those values with you. But then the society in its um you know, desire to grow, again, chase that American dream, those values changed. So that's why, again, when David asked the question, if you put put whoever you want, put a people with a different mindset or attitude, you put them into a certain culture, that you more times than not they're going to conform to that culture. Doesn't matter what it is, unless there's reinforcement by the people in the culture. It's going to conform. But again, America was made, with the exception of the slaves and the indigenous, was made of you guys coming over. And I would put David in that category also. But he can already see with millennial Igbos or Yorubas or whatever, it's a different mindset. So what he grew up with, I don't know if the kids of that generation, of this current generation, if they had that same mindset. So I mean, I just think that, so what you're saying is true, but then, like I said, you have societies that are dying. So even, when Marion talks about parts of the world consider taking care of parents, but here's the problem. They say go back to Japan, even go back to China. There's no more parents because people aren't having kids.
Yeah, didn't they pass a law at one point?
Japan is dying. It's aging
Didn't
out.
they pass a law in Asia that you only have allowed to have one kid or something like that?
No, that was in
Okay.
China because of the population boom that they had. But
Yeah,
guess what? Now they repealed it, in part because, again, the number is 2.1. They had a one-child policy for like 40 years.
it is. Yeah, I remember
The number is
that.
2.1. You need to have 2.1 children to maintain the status quo of a society. Now, back in the day when you were having 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 kids or whatnot, that was a different ball game. There was a different economy. It was an agricultural economy where you needed a lot of bodies in order to work the fields. But again, once we became suburban and then we became urban, fewer children born. Also, the demands of work. You talk about Europe again. You gotta look at all the factors. Again, Europe's policy when it comes to family time off and family leave. The family leave that Europeans get after having the children, it puts the U.S. to shame.
I remember did a show about this.
Taking time off, siestas, things of that nature. The society isn't so busy. But again, you take the most developed nations. India, 60, 70-hour work week is the norm over there. So again, every society, there is no perfect society is basically what I'm trying to say. There's no perfect people is what I'm trying to say. People look at what's in front of them, what they've been raised with. You make the best choices and decisions that you can make based on your resources, your information, your aptitudes, and availability. Again, we're not so different from everybody else. I mean, that's why, again, David, like I said, I love when he talks about, growing up in Nigeria. But again, I look at Nigeria. Now, Nigeria is probably an early case of what I was talking about earlier about the U.S. Because I'm older than you, I remember the 80s. Nigeria was on the verge of being a player in the world. I'm talking about, you talk about the Middle East with the Middle East oil and cartels and whatnot. Nigeria was on the verge. They could have really been the Wakanda of Africa.
You are correct on that part. And after listening to a lot of historians who mentioned that, I hate to say they make the probability 1,000% correct because not only were on the verge, they were at the time with our currency surpassed the United States dollar.
Yeah.
I remember this. What happened?
I was in, yeah.
I mean, may add any detail. What really
Go ahead,
happened?
go ahead.
A lot of historians uncovered that there was a lot of mold that been implanted in Nigeria to convince those particular leaders to decredit or devalue their currency or to retract from pushing much investment in their production of their oil and their agriculture. Upon doing so, it kind of like pushed the country back big time. And this is something one particular podcaster on TikTok named Kai, he's a Nigerian, and he reached out to a bunch of historians who understand the documentation and when it first started. It started around the mid '80s when the thing collapse happened. they were convincing these people, if you do this or you do that, we will supply you aid, we'll supply you money, you can pocket some money. And what it did, strategically, it forced Nigeria not to be one of the major players because, one, we rival Saudi Arabia and Dubai when it comes to oil production. That is one of the
Correct.
biggest things. And there was other stuff that we also have that we rival many other countries. It was meant to be the giant of Africa. But from there, from mid '80s to right now, it's a complete opposite. And they never stopped to stop the destruction from happening. So right now, we in the Paul Bennett say correct, we're in the early stage of what America is going through. And now there's other countries are putting them on the spotlight whereby, negatively speaking, like, you effed up. You had the chance to be the giant, but you abuse it. Now other countries who have little compared to what you have is about to turn the table and surpass you where you should have surpassed many other African countries, but it did not due to lack of proper leadership. But it was more intentionally done on purpose. So I cannot argue with Mr. Bennett because this is something I was speaking on long before I met Mr. Bennett for almost 2 decades, calling it out because like this is it's like I say it's blasphemy, but to be from a country, technically speaking, is by far wealthier than the United States, looking like crap, there's a problem. This is something that there's too many factors that play to this. Even though
Mm.
part of it can be culturally speaking, but it's more of a culture tribal. What I found out about a month ago, Nigeria was never going to exist because we were forced together among the three major tribes. Even though there's about 500 dialects of different sub-tribes underneath it, we were forced to become a country when we were actually a business hub for slave and transport of good at one point. That's another historical fact that
Here's
was
my
never
thing,
shown in the
David.
high school
Here's my
or in
thing.
the school system.
Hear me out. Hear me out. You're very educated of where you came from. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Paul is pretty educated where he came from. I'll give him that. I'm very educated where I came from. I'm very proud of it. This is the reason why I call myself Ngos of Sparta. Sparta is Greek. I'll put it this way. I know when the first Greeks stepped foot on these lands in America. It came in 1528 in Florida. That's how well I know my shit. But when you talk to people, they don't know where they're from. How can you grow as a person if you don't know where you came from?
I don't know if that I wouldn't put that as a
I mean,
as
it's
a
not a
limitation
limitation.
though.
I think
You're saying how can you grow? No, I'm saying that can be a limitation. I mean, how far back you want to go? If you go back 500 years, my people were
I'll give you an
slaves.
example what I mean by that. What you shouldn't.
So yeah,
You ask somebody, what's your nationality? He says, I don't know. I'm white. Okay. Are you Polish? Are you Irish? Are you Italian? He goes, I'm a mutt. A mutt is not a nationality. You see where I'm going now with this, Paul?
no, because I'm a mutt also.
But you know you're
I'm 50.
you did your DNA
I'm-
test, you said.
Yes, and I'm a mutt,
But you
as most African American ADOS
yeah,
are.
but you know you're African American. Obviously, good looking in the mirror too.
Well, again, we had to forge that. The idea of black, or black American or whatever, or ADOS or FBA or whatever that is, that had to be forged. Because again, a lot of us didn't know. We don't speak the language of the mother tongue. David can speak his language. I can't. I don't know what it is. I'm 30% Nigerian. I don't know what part of Nigeria I'm from. I have no idea. I could be Igbo, Yoruba. I have no idea.
It's either the two, Igbo or Yoruba.
Right. So I'm just saying. So again, those things are from me. I don't know what part of it. I know most of my DNA comes from Western Africa, from Mali, from Central Africa, from Congo, from Nigeria, all those kind of mixes. Throw some Irish and European, some British in there, throw some Arab in there. That's who I am. It doesn't dictate my future though. because at the end of the day, I'm still a human being. And so I have so again, history and culture and those things can be certainly assets, but they can also be hindrances as well. And talk to David about that, because he's always talking about the Nigerian culture. It could be a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Bingo.
Because again, sometimes the thinking is such, and especially from where you're at, that thinking may have been useful in certain segments, but will it ultimately help you when you're in another country? Or if it does, or for how long? It may help you initially in terms of that immigrant mindset, but as you start to assimilate into the culture, again, I ask a young Nigerian American today, an 18-year-old, a 21-year-old Nigerian American today, where they feel more of a connection. It's probably going to be the United States. If not in this generation, then one that comes after them.
Facts.
So again, this idea of cultural pride, I get it to an extent. And certainly cultural connection and cultural unity help my people come out of 400 years of enslavement and Jim Crow and all those things here. So I can certainly look at that and what my people have been able to overcome, and it is a motivator. But at the end of the day, I need to be what I need to be for those who are immediately in my surroundings. My people, my mom, my dad, my wife, my kids, my extended family. I need to take that on. And so even though, yes, you can be culturally connected, but there's a part of it where you have to look at and I thought that's the whole thing about this show tonight. You have to look at you. What do you value? What do you want? What are you willing to deny to go after? What is important to you, the individual? Culture is great. I'm not knocking that. Ethnicity is great. But for the stuff that's interesting, all these guys in here, you, Black David, my man Eric in the back, we all come from very different places.
Agree.
And
Boss man, but yeah,
That's what
all
makes
of
us
us
unique, I think.
But it's interesting how we have similar stories of family dysfunction of one sort or another, and yet we all stepped up to do what was required, not that what we wanted, and that we sacrificed some of our own goals and ambitions to do so. But I'll tell you this, though. The one thing I would say I would get out of, even though as comfortable as my upbringing was, I keep talking about this. The struggle helped to grow me as a man. It just does.
I agree on that 100%.
I'm a better man by going through all of that, not only my upbringing, but also coming full circle where I had to take care of the very people who were at the source of some of my pain. And so to come full circle like that, yeah, I lost my hair seriously in that process. And out of that, I made the 7B network.
Oh, here we go again with this shit.
So I'm just saying. You talk about taking lemons and making lemonade out of it. I'm saying I'm a better man. I'm a more compassionate man. I'm a more empathetic person because of the struggles that I grew up with, the sacrifices that I had to make, and what I had to do to step into the gap to be who I needed to be for my mom and dad and for those who needed me in that
Honestly,
time.
I mean, Paul, I don't regret one bit what I do for my parents, and I know you don't either. I know David doesn't either. Somebody told me you is a unique type of man who does what we do, and I agree with that.
Well, then you can't have it both ways then. And no, you can't, because this is something that I had to come to. Because you're saying that we are unique men who've been able to do this. And I'll probably more or less I would agree with you. But if we're unique, then that means not everyone's built for this. So if not everyone is built for this, then we can't hold them accountable for not being.
Oh, I mean that. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right about that. I'm sorry.
But then you can't get mad. See, I got mad initially. Why aren't my other siblings stepping up? I got, yeah, I got in my feelings a little bit about it because I didn't think it was fair. You, in your case, it's almost easier for you because you're an only child. So who else is going to step up?
Only people I got
I'm the
pissed was
youngest.
my cousins because I explained to you why. They said for years and years, you need anything, we got you, man. We need anything, we got you, man. We need anything, we got you, man. And only thing I needed is an ear to talk to. That's all I wanted. And they disowned me.
Mhm.
I'm straight.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm better than good. I built a bigger family, a better family. You know who that is, Paul? Do you?
Oh, he's gonna say. Oh, he's gonna say us.
Yeah, oh wow, he's using his brain tonight. You know what?
He's gonna
You know what? You know what? I'll give you gunshots for that one.
That's fine. That's fine. Good.
But you have a point.
But in
But
any
yeah,
event, but for a lot of us, again, that's why I'm saying this is personal. This is something that again every person has to embrace it because again, holding on to that bitterness, and Dave, I'm talking to you also. Holding on to that bitterness, when you talk about stuff being toxic, that is toxic.
and he telling the truth
Embrace the
because
fact. Embrace the fact that you were the man that was chosen for the task. And you stepped up and did what you had to do in the breach for the task and let all the other stuff go.
and think about it
Even
this
you,
way.
Pete, even with your relatives, even with your cousins turning their back on you and all that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? You became the better at the end of the day. You became the better person again when you had to struggle and when you had to take on this by yourself. At least I could
But
say my siblings, they weren't necessarily stepping up, but then at the same time, I was able to take what they were able to give me. And it got,
but
especially towards the end, it kind of got good in that I was able to say, hey, whatever you can give me, I'll take it. And
let me
I
just say
just held
this.
them accountable for what they could offer, which wasn't much, but nevertheless it was significant.
Let me add to this
Go ahead,
because
Dave.
Here, you
I'm
go
glad
first.
you
I got something
mentioned
to
this
say
about step
afterwards.
it up because remember I said earlier I was listening to a podcast conversation on battle bells. I kind of made fun of like how you're here to respond in terms of relationship because when you mentioned stepping up, did have many facets to it. Either when it comes to family within your mom and pop who will step up, when it comes to relationship, aka marriage. If one is not holding their own end of the bargain, are you going to step up and continue on knowing that it's going to be lopsided? If it's step up whereby you got a job and you're part of a team and your team is slacking off, but if you did not step up, you could all lose your job all because of the people not wanting to put in the effort. So when you mention step up, I look at it on multiple factors because in many situations it's annoying and highly irritating whereby if you do not step up, if you're in that situation, if you feel if you can tell in the deep in your gut, if you don't step up, it's not gonna look good, regardless. And you automatically systematic in the brain cell to let me just do this right now just to make peace. Just like I said, it falls in the realm of relationship marriage. There's a lot of men who's in bad marriages whereby they have separate marital or they realize they sometimes spend more time in their car than in their bed, working long hours, working two jobs whatsoever, trying to make the end meet, and never be recognized of the sacrifice they made. Or there are people working in jobs whereby you have a crappy ass team member. And many times you step up, you did because not only because not like you had a choice, but you knew right off the back if you did not step up, it could also cost you your own job as well. And you trying to prolong the aspect of things. That's the crappiness about it. And there's many times I can say in past jobs, I was forced to step up because I'm not trying to lose this job or because there's some idiotic team member who are lazy as hell. And me coming from a country background where we work ethic is ridiculous. We put ourselves to this severe grind just to make sure we make ends meet or we strive to be successful. That was the mindset. And I hate to say that I am 46. I can remember when I ever enjoyed my entire life to begin with. All I know is work. I don't know how to enjoy life, so to speak. Everything is all about responsibility. It is on my work or in my marriage or in my family. I had to be on that mindset 24/7. How to call it? You're on survival mode. It's hard to get off survival mode to enjoy your life mode, because when you realize things are not going where you're supposed to go, you have to be put on that systematic system, which it's hard to get off. Because when I remember hearing on No Caffeine, he said that was his mindset for a very long time till his mom passed away. He had siblings. They did not want to step up. Or systematically speaking, he had no choice but to step in and be the one responsible. Mr. Bennett did the same exact thing. He was the youngest. But there were
Mhm.
people above him who may or may not have the capacity, but never even tried to make the sacrifice. He was forced to make the sacrifice. He know if he don't step in, nobody else could have stepped in. It's kind of like the chip fell on him regardless. And him having that mindset, he had to step in to imagine what it's like in this world we live in today, where only very few decide to step up because they know if they don't step up, it look bad all across the board,
Mhm.
regardless. And even though when you do step up, do you get the credit you deserve? Do you get the praise you do, or they still gonna overlook it,
Mhm.
act like you didn't do
Right.
shit?
But that's an expectation, though, isn't it? One thing we also got to keep in mind with this whole concept here, your idea of happiness or sadness or disappointment lives at the level of your expectation. Anything that is below your expectation, there's no happiness, there's no joy, there's no anything. It's just misery. That's why you could have, and I've always looked at this with the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics. Especially I love watching like the gymnastics. Like when you talk about the China team versus Japan versus US or something like that. Why is it that the US team, they might have been expected to finish fifth or sixth in the competition, but they win bronze and they're falling all over each other like they won the gold. But if your expectation was the gold, the worst feeling in the world is to win the silver. How many times have we seen people get awarded the silver medal and literally take it off like they don't want it because the expectation was such there was no happiness or joy. But you're basically saying you are the second best on this day in the world, and yet you feel like a total failure because you didn't live up to your expectation. So when we're talking about these things that we are expecting from people, I think if you're going to do certain things, if you're going to step up, you have to manage what those expectations are. And like I said, stop putting expectations on people. The only expectations you really need to have is the ones you put on yourself. Because again, that will wreck you. Did I ever get credit or acknowledgement? Sometimes yes, and sometimes if I got it, I got it. But if I didn't, I wasn't going to front because, oh, you don't recognize everything that I do. And from a spiritual level, look, I truly believe this. I got my assignment from God. If you want to be totally honest about it, I know exactly where I was. I was in a barbershop with some brothers talking about, and we talked about everything in the barbershop. And brothers who were there, they understood the weight that I was on. They prayed over me. And basically, it was my calling. So my expectation came from God. So once you treat it on that level, I could care less about what human beings are going to say about me. Good, bad, or indifferent. If you got some praise for me, then fine. If you're going to be critical about what I'm doing, despite the fact that you didn't want to step up yourself, fine. But I got a higher power to answer to. And I got a conscience. So again, another reason why to let go of those expectations of people You do what is right versus doing it for other people. If you work for praise of other people, you're always going to be disappointed. Ask any athlete. You can be the hero today, but then they're booing you tomorrow because you struck out at the end of the game, or you didn't make the shot at the end of the game, or you dropped the pass, or something like that. So again, you have to just know what to expect in these things. If you know it's the right thing to do and you're the one who has to do it, then to have expectations of anyone else, all you can do is ask. And if they say no, you ask somebody else until you get what you need in order to get what you need to get done. After a while, certain people I stopped asking. In part because I knew they couldn't help me as much as I wanted them to. As much as I wanted them to step up, I couldn't hold that person accountable. So I stopped asking. And not only stopped asking, I stopped judging. And I stopped being angry at them. I just simply accepted they ain't the ones. And I kept going. So again, I mean, if you talk about really stepping up, especially if you think this is what I need to be doing, you can't be worrying about the crowd out there. You just can't. The job at hand is stressful enough. I could never do what Freezy did. Shout out to Freezy, man. I mean, when I talk about he took care of his mom, he took care of his mom in everything. I'm like,
I remember we were all there listening to his story.
I'm like, listen,
listen to the depth of it.
And that's the thing too. I may not be built for that. So that's why I don't even go around comparing myself to anybody. Yeah, I did this. I didn't do nearly what Freezy did. So I'm not so again, I work with what I've been given. Everyone's been dealt a hand of some kind or another. Good hand, average hand, bad hand, whatever. You deal with what you've been given. If you've been 2-parent household, great parents and everything, great childhood, great siblings, great holidays, everybody loves each other, all that kind of stuff, great. I ain't hating you for it. If you grew up poor, if you grew up isolated, you grew up in the hood, you grew up, destitute, whatever, but you forged yourself out of it, even better. But I'm not in position to judge people on what they can and can't do. And there's some people, if I left it to them to do some stuff, it would have been bad. So why complain? You do what is required. And your expectation, your how you judge it is on, did I do the best that I could with what I had? It may not have been perfect to the outside. Because everybody can say, oh, you need to be doing this and you need to be doing that. You could do that better. Oh, why aren't you doing this or whatever? I'm like, you're not in the game, so you don't matter. Now, I may come to you if you have something to offer me of some advice or counsel. If you have something that I would need to help me do my job better, then fine. I will ask you. But if you're not going to be contributing, you just kind of be, you trying to coach from the couch on what I need to be doing, I don't need to be hearing from you at that point. So again, based on, did I do the best with what I have? And did I push through obstacles to get to the result that I needed to get to? And if you do that, that to me is stepping up. Regardless of the country that you're in, regardless of the times that you're in, did you do what you had? Definitely my forebearers dealt with a lot more stuff than I had to deal with. A lot more. Jim Crow, what my dad had to go through, separate but equal bathrooms, separate drinking fountains. They dealt with a lot more than I ever had to do. But I'm not taking back anything that I've done. And my kids, what the world that they got to deal with. My daughter was just talking today, talking about she's getting microaggressions at work. Now, back in the day, we didn't have microaggressions. I had no idea what that was. I was like, I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to be sensitive to the generation that is today. I'm like microaggressions because
Small
a dude
pocket.
did. So he said what he did. What I'm trying to be empathetic to what they're doing, but back in the day, nobody was talking about some microaggressions. If you wanted to be racist at work, you had to be blatant with that stuff.
Hmm.
But now it's like, I mean, if it were me, I'd say, look, just let it go. Just do your grind, keep your head down, and just keep moving. But with her, that generation, they think different. But whatever world or circumstance that you find yourself in, again, the principles are not going to change. You still have to press through difficulties and endure hardship and get hardened through the process, get refined through that process to become tougher and stronger for the next thing that's going to come. I don't care what era, I don't care what country, I don't care what ethnicity. Everybody's got to do the same thing.
Dumb question. What is a microaggression? Because I'm not familiar with that term.
It's like a slight type of diss. Or it's something that's done in a way that it's like it's like a little insult, or or at least that's how you take it. You take it as an insult, whatever, or it's a way of people digging while being obvious. So they may not call you the N word, but they may call you something or do something or refer to something that's a little bit of a backhand. At least that's how they call it. That's how they treat it. Or I would say how I would couch is you. Sometimes people are just ignorant. They may attribute something to you being Greek, and maybe they don't mean to be or offensive, whatever, but you take it in such a way that you find it offensive. Now you might be just laugh it off, haha, whatever. But some people these days, it's anything that may be sort of out of the ordinary.
No, no,
They
no.
could
I
they
give
could
you a good example. I know what you're talking about. Like when I was in high school, this triggered me at once. One time only, and since I don't give a shit. Really. Like, listen, you know my life. You're not in my inner circle to know who I am. And they were going after, oh, Pete believes in gods, several gods. Zeus, he doesn't believe in Jesus and all that stuff. And I took offense back then. But I was in high school, so I was a kid.
Mhm.
Now you tell me that, like, my comments going, yeah, I believe in gods. You know, Zeus is my grandfather. He's gonna shove a goddamn light bulb up your ass. If you want to piss off my grandfather, please do, because he's gonna barbecue you so fucking hard. It's not even funny.
Mhm.
I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
It's
But for
just
some people, especially again for certain peoples or whatever, yeah, they find anything you know off color that could be considered that. So, but again, I'm just built differently. But again,
we both are.
I'm still trying to. They'll be there for my daughter. Yeah, if it's affecting your ability to do your job, then yeah, you need to do something about that. So, but but yeah, man. I mean that's you know. But I mean, let's get to some of the. We got a little time left. Let's get to some of those questions. I know you had a few of them. We dealt probably with the first. We probably dealt with maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Actually,
But
believe it or not, when I got out, I came home. I'm not gonna lie to you. I showered because I needed to get that
yeah,
gut off me because I worked
yeah,
also today.
true.
So I never brought up the questions up again. So let me see if I have them. I have them still
Yeah,
saved.
if you had some questions you wanted to raise, just to yeah.
So, and I got a little funny closing act later. It's gonna be going on our fan page tonight. I have a little thing. You're gonna laugh your ass off later. Which questions you left off? First of all,
I think we dealt with definitely with the first. I would say the first 3 for sure. I think it's certainly been covered. Let's
okay,
see
a
here.
relationship. When it comes to relationship, who steps up? I was always curious about that.
Who steps up in a relationship?
Yeah.
I do, always,
Why you?
because I'm me. I can only be responsible. I can only be responsible for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not good enough, then I guess I won't be with that person. But it's like what The Rock used to say: know your role and shut your mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, so again, if I'm not doing what I need to be doing, then it's pretty hard to hold anybody else accountable for what they're not doing. Am I doing what I need to be doing? Am I being the example? Since I'm supposed to be the quote unquote head of the house, am I being the example for my family? Am I being the example as a husband? Those are the questions that I ask. And so, for guys who are talking about, oh, well, she's not doing what she needs to be doing, so whatever. It's like, and again, I'm not saying the relationship will survive. I'm not saying being in an abusive and toxic relationship. I'm not saying any of that stuff. I'm just saying in a relationship, who steps up? It should be a race to see who steps up first. In a marriage, it's about who serves the best. I should want to win that title. I serve you, and we may serve each other differently. But the idea is, again, I am in a relationship where, again, service. Jesus said the greatest among you would be the greatest servants.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so I would say myself, who steps up. And, as far as my wife, I don't know which you would have to ask her that question. But no, I was saying for that question specifically, no, I step up. I do what is required, not necessarily what I feel for the good of the relationship. Sometimes that means taking a back seat. Sometimes that means compromise. Sometimes that means going her way with it. Sometimes you got to give a little to get something back. But if it's good for the relationship, then I step up and do it.
When it comes to relationships stepping up, do you think people confuse self-care with selfish sometimes? Sometimes you gotta be selfish to step up to the situation versus
Indeed.
taking care. I'm
Indeed.
sorry?
Yeah. Yes.
I agree with you 100% with that. Yes, I agree with you. Go ahead.
Yeah. It definitely gets confusing, but at the same time, it's necessary. But again, this is something I wanted to mention to my daughter earlier. I'll mention it here. Sometimes it's not about right and wrong. There's another dimension that is either wise or not wise. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not left and right. There's not just, width or height. It's depth. And so sometimes it's like, yes, there are times I need to take time for myself to do what I need to do. I don't need 2 weeks to do that. It might be just a couple hours. It could be a nap. It could be a workout. It could be an hour or so just to kind of, get into my space. Sometimes it's being in these places, just chopping it up on stuff that's serious or maybe not so serious. For my wife, sometimes it's just about chilling. She's like, these days I just want to chill in bed and watch a Hallmark movie. That's her downtime. That's what she likes to do. She gets up in the morning, she does her spin bike, and now she goes to a class in the afternoon, 5:30 at night. She gets her 45-minute spin class in. She does her grind, she does her work, she cooked dinner tonight, she did all that kind of stuff, and she's like, now I'm gonna just chill. So there's all different kind of ways, but to get you to where you need to be. And sometimes it's not going to be necessarily fair all the time. Sometimes situations are such where you may have to give up some of your comforts or some of those things that you typically do to distress in order to deal with, again, a more pressing situation. I believe in having schedules, but again, schedules can be changed.
I agree.
And so you do but at the end of the day, you still do what is required. So again, me staying in shape me, having that time to work on my development, yeah, I need that time. But I also know that my wife needs some time, and we need time together. So, yeah, I mean, so yes, that line to make sure that you're at your best. But again, also keep in mind you're doing it for a reason. I'm going to be selfish for a little bit so I can be selfless with a lot. And a lot of people, they get it twisted to say, I'm going to be selfish with everything and give you little.
Mm-hmm.
But that's wisdom right there.
All right. This one, I have my own opinion about this. We're not talking about only stepping up for, maybe step up for work. You might go to the gym. This is a overall question. Why do you think people don't step up? Is it laziness? Is
Yes.
it don't give a shit?
Yes.
Is it I'm only selfish. I give a fuck about me,
Yes.
me. What is your opinion? Okay,
All of the above.
you can't agree on everything, fucker.
Yes, it is. Yes, you can. Because again, human beings, 90% of human beings want to stay in a state of homeostasis. They want to simply stay the same. Like I said, to constantly forge, this world waits for no one. Again, I'm telling my girls this all the time. My oldest is in a situation now where she's at this crossroads where she's about to start medical school. And I'm telling her that basically the last bastion of the friends that you had in high school, essentially that must end. Because you guys are going in very different directions. And where you're looking to go, the people that you need in your life at this point, you need people who grow you. You need people who hold you accountable. You need people who inspire you. But even that they're almost 10 years out of high school, they're still talking about high school stuff, the attitudes and the mindset, which my daughter really isn't about, but this is what she's dealing with. And I'm asking sometimes, why are you even dealing with these folks? But you need to get around some women. My daughter's, is such, I mean, women who are maybe 2, 3, 4 years older, into their careers, into their purpose, into their grind. Who's going to mentor? Who's going to school you? Who's going to be like, yeah, I want to, this person inspires. Who in your life inspires you? Who motivates you to do better? But again, these are people she's comfortable with. She's known them forever. We've gone through everything together. We've been to concerts together. We went to prom together. These are, sometimes you got to cut out some people that it might have run its course, but now you need to get ready for the new part of your life. At this point, you should be thinking about husband. At this point, your career and your family that you're going to have. And the friend that the last bastion of friends, this friend's about to get married. And I'm saying this friend really shouldn't really be your friend after a while anyway, because once she gets married, she needs to be about her husband. Y'all think y'all going to be having hot girl summers and hanging out and partying and traveling and stuff like that? That needs to end. Your man now is your life. Check in with the girls every once in a while. Hey, how you doing, girl? Boom, boom, boom. Oh, you guys doing that? Me and my man, we doing this. You guys want to get together for coffee every once in a while? Fine, great. Hot girl summer trips? I don't think so.
I want to touch base on this really fast, and I want to jump into the fun portion of a surprise I've been working on in the background as the show is going on. And Paul, you guys are gonna be very embarrassed tonight after this.
Oh,
It will be on the guys. If you guys want to vote which one's the best picture, when I post these on the Spartan SQ network fan page, please visit our Facebook. Thank you. So here's what you just said. Stop when you get married. You stop those hot single dates. Going out with your girlfriends, drinking or whatever. However, right? You know how many women I know who want to be in a relationship, and they really want to be in a relationship, but they want to act single still. They want to go out drinking. They want to go dancing. Not with their mans, with their girlfriends. No man allowed. Or dressing a little. What's the word I'm looking for? A little more skinnish when you're
Mhm.
single.
Mm.
I made a comment once. I like, that's very inappropriate. You have a man, and they didn't like what I said. I'm the bad guy now. The only thing they needed is get me slashed, whipped, and crucified in the middle of my main street because
Yeah.
I said the truth. And how many people I talk to, women I talk to, and they said to me something like, yeah, if she's in a relationship, she needs to stop acting like going out drinking at St. Patrick's Day and she has a man at home who's working. That's inappropriate. Please jump in anytime, Paul. Tell me if I'm wrong what I'm saying here.
No, it's but again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Again, because you enjoy your comforts.
Yeah.
You pursue comfort versus the struggle of what it takes to really to build a relationship, because that takes sacrifice. And yeah, but they'll get it. The problem is, by the time they get it, do men then are going to want them at that point? That's the question that they got to ask themselves. It's good
Thank
in
you.
your 20s and whatnot. You're doing your stuff or whatever, but you be turning 30, 32, 35 years old and whatnot, and you be like, oh, I think
Dude,
I need
I
to.
know a 45-year-old who still does that, and she's been through 3 marriages. And she goes,
Well, at least,
I don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, but some of these, it's not even on the radar with
Yeah.
some of these girls right now until it's too late, and then it's like, do guys really want you at this point that you've been living it up for all this time?
Exactly.
So again, but again, the pursuit of comfort, and I keep going back to this reference of a movie, but again, it is so prophetic. Again, Rollerball, 1975,
Is that your
James
favorite movie?
Caan. Watch the movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all
Okay,
time.
because you
Yeah.
bring that up a lot, actually.
Because it is prophetic. It speaks so much to where society is, not just society, but societies and where they are. But it talks specifically about the human condition. My favorite part of the film is where there's a debate he's having with his ex-wife, the athlete, Jonathan E. in the movie. And what happened in the movie, the premise of the movie is that corporations have built a world of comfort. So much so where there's no more sickness, there's no more disease, there's no more, everyone has a job, there's no poverty. And the debate he gets into is just the whole idea is that the purpose to life is to pursue comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And he pushes back vehemently, saying, no, it's about the struggle for meaning and for purpose. Have something that pushes you and stretches you to a higher outcome and result. The struggle is good for us, but we so much want to avoid the struggle. I'm not saying you need a day of rest. I'm not saying that. And back in the day, God made the earth in 6 days and rested on the 7th day. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Take vacations. Yes, my wife and I, we got very well acquainted with a lot of the vacations that we went on this year, and we want to develop
Just
a
never on my
pattern
show days.
of vacation. Well, more are coming, so you better prepare yourself for it. More are coming. But
We talk about this off
yes,
the air.
it is good. It is good for you and your lady to get out there and go somewhere and just lose yourself in that environment, take away the stresses of whatever. It is good. It's good for an individual to do that. So
Yeah.
David, you don't need an excuse to go somewhere just you alone and just veg out. Get into the nature. Go on a beach. Walk
You know what,
on the
David? I have
beach
an idea for you.
walk on the beach at dawn and just let God speak to you there. Get into some nature stuff, some hiking, some
Just no cannibals,
trails, some
please.
something.
All right. So we're going into our fun part of the show. I had a little surprise for you guys. I've been working something in the background. First, I'm going to show my clip. So I'm going to embarrass all two of you guys tonight. David, you ready?
Go ahead.
All right. Where is it? So that is an action figure of myself.
Oh my gosh.
You're next,
It's pretty
Paul.
good though.
I actually have one of you.
There's some AI stuff
You look like what's his name? The actor from Star Wars. I mean, help me out here.
from Star Wars.
Yeah, that
Samuel L. Jackson.
Thank you.
Wasn't this Samuel L. Jackson was in Star? Oh yeah, Mace Windu. All right,
Yeah,
Mace buffed up. Yeah, Mace Windu
but he
buffed
looks
up.
like this version is more like a Die Hard version of it. Because
I'll
he had the
take
glasses.
it.
Now it's your turn, David. Yours the funniest one of all.
First and foremost, I'm nowhere near BMU.
Where is it? You see BMU? This is the picture off your Facebook, and I threw in the
Yeah,
AI, and
but
this one came
the
out.
size, I don't.
I didn't say anything about BMU. You
Yeah,
did.
it's not. Yeah, it's a bit disproportional. I would say. I would give it that.
It's supposed to be for fun. There's nothing about anything. Um,
You got to
I'll be
pass me that
working on
picture
it.
though. I'll put that on
Like
my
I said
page.
earlier, this is going on a Spartan Execute Network Facebook page. Please vote for favorite one tonight. I'll be up there sometime tomorrow.
That looks dope
Uh,
though.
What's up, man?
That looks dope though. I appreciate.
I'm gonna
the
send it
effort.
to you. Actually,
Yeah.
you can show your wife. Like, yo, hey, look, babe, this was me 20 years ago. Before I
You
got
about
married.
20 years ago. I still got the guns now. What are you
Oh,
talking
you
about?
do,
20 years
yeah.
ago?
Before I got married, and I lost my hair because of you. That's what I was saying. So I want to thank you both for you guys for picking up the slack for me. When I was gone.
Anytime, you know that you got it.
I know. I still have to say thank you, at least. That's the most I can do. Do you guys want to do final thoughts, or just want to get out of here?
Nah, I mean, I
I'll
think,
say
you know, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, David. Want me to take the floor for a minute?
this topic about stepping up every day, it's another piece of a path I had to take, or I say for today. It struck a chord with me because when you mentioned stepping up, I asked myself, how many people going through what I've gone through, but they feel like there was no way out for them. They had to be mentally responsible, regardless of what anybody say or feel. They had to be responsible decisions, be adult, and how long that have been weighing on you throughout your life. Shout out to No Cap Freezy. Shout out to people who have listened and heard their struggle and their plight and what they had to do to just survive, to make it through. Shout out to those who's in bad marriage and trying to find a way out of it. Shout out to those who's in a situation whereby if they don't make the required decision, and not that they're going to affect, they're going to affect those around them as well. This conversation is not easy to have, but make you look at yourself and the journey you're taking as well. That's just my final thought.
Paul, anything else before we go?
Nah, I'm good, bro. I'm good.
All right.
Yep.
Let's do a quick schedule update. This Saturday, we have a new show title I just added because I fell behind on myself. So, oops. Gods versus superheroes. Paul, you want to jump in? This is your show.
Yeah. So basically, it's going to be just a discussion, really about our humanity's desire for gods and our superheroes. In essence, our new gods. Are they, and the similar? Why are we drawn to these heroic figures and the themes that are also with these characters? Those common threads that kind of run through them all. So again, a highfalutin discussion that I want to have with some guys who have space. If you're in the religious space, great. If you have but if you're a comic book fan, that's also good. But really, just this need that we have. We need heroes in one way or another, and how the comic books, well, certainly the characters in the comic books, is part of that longing that we desire something that's bigger and greater than ourselves. So hopefully, like I said, we'll have a good discussion.
Yep. And on Sunday, we'll be speaking about corporal punishment.
Corporal punishment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Hopefully, nobody's coming around the whipping anytime soon. And on
I'm not going to show up on Sunday to have that conversation. I went through corporal punishment
I did too.
Yeah.
from my childhood,
mhm.
not only childhood wise, but on upbringing, going to school
Yeah.
in a culture whereby corporal punishment was allowed.
Yeah. But the
Yeah.
but the que-
I
yeah,
did
but
too.
the yeah.
I did too.
But the question is it working? So again, that's going to be part of the discussion.
That
You
is the
know,
middle down question.
gotta-
And on Wednesday, Paul, David, and Wally will be talking about Neo Genesis, a legend,
Ugh,
a anime, or what? And next Thursday,
that's a dark
ne-
anime.
next Thursday, we are talking about War of the Generations. I need to email
Ugh,
Payne for that one,
mm.
and I'm going to get Coach on for that
you
one
need
too.
RPM.
All right,
You might need
I'm taking
RPM and
I'm taking early bets right now. I'm putting the clock down for 20 minutes before R Payne mentions a political statement or something to that effect. So I'm already putting it down so we can have it all written down. So
All right, I'm going to
20
email him
minutes
right
is
now. He
the
will
over
join that
20
podcast.
minutes is the over under before he makes a political statement, but we'll see.
I like to
might
get
get
more
Mandrill
pain
for
in
that
here.
conversation.
I want to get Coach in here too, if he can, if they're possible. Let's see.
Over Mandrill.
We can get him in here.
You might want to get Mandrill
Mandrake's usually very
because
busy
he did a show about
on
that.
Thursdays. That's why he doesn't usually show up. But I'm going to text him. Except that
Because he did a show about that, and he was in the middle of that. I remember he did it like a year or two ago. They did a show about dealing with the multiple generation, whereby why did it disconnect? And I watched it. It was not a simple podcast to host. We're dealing with four different generations. You have JT generation, you have my and Mandrill generation, you have the one right behind us. Then you have Jedi Mike generation. That was a very unique conversation whereby I mean the Paul Bennett was watching it and he can tell like this is one tough conversation to have within the black community, period. Why there's a disconnect among generations, period. That when you compare it to my African upbringing, is it's not similar, but it's still
it's different.
going down
I
that
get it.
right
I get it.
that same path.
Yeah. All right. Before we go, Mr. President, last words before we go.
We're good here.
I
Good show.
definitely need a haircut. David,
I'm good. I'm good. I'm just trying to keep it moving.
as always, I am Ghost of Sparta. This was a HQ Network. It was a pleasure. It was fun. I'll see you guys on Saturday. Stay fresh, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.
Peace.